Joining us now, in the words of Bill Walton, our first guest might be the only Super Bowl champion to ever be on the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee, BYU Athletic Director Tom Holmoe. Tom, welcome back.
That's a conundrum.
Most of what Bill says
He's one
is
of
a
a kind,
conundrum,
man.
right?
He enjoys the ability to say whatever and whenever he wants to say it.
Great thing. Here's the connection between Bill Walton and Tom Holmoe. Our brothers were roommates at UCLA in 1969 on the football team. Bruce Walton, Steve Holmoe.
Wow.
What in the world?
Who knew?
Facts.
That's unbelievable. We're talking with BYU Athletic Director Tom Holmoe now in Studio B. What's your schedule like right now between your now increasing NCAA Tournament Selection Committee responsibilities and seemingly being at every BYU game ever?
It's busy. It's very busy, but I love it. I'm just glad I have a wife that considers a BYU volleyball, soccer, or basketball game as date night.
So you have a lot of date nights then.
We got a lot of date nights. But I really, it's kind of a cool thing that in the position that I'm in and loving to be around those student athletes and at the games, it's a big part of what I do is to see them play and perform, because how they play and perform shows a lot about how they're doing. And so it's good for me to be there, be at the practices. I don't go to all the practices, but I step in occasionally just to see. But my wife and children love the games. And so I had my 3 of my 4 children and my wife were at the game last night. Not a great game for the Cougs, but it was great for our family to be there and feel the spirit of that game.
What did you think of the game last night?
You know, it was a very interesting game. I mean, a tale of two cities, boy.
Certainly.
I think that our team is dangerous, but they have a long way to go to find an identity. That's the thing I think right now. They just don't really have a personality or an identity because they're somewhat up and down. And when they figure it out, and I believe they will, they're going to be really good. But I think that game last night, driving home, having the Holmoe family caucus to talk about the positives and the negatives of the games.
Everyone does, right?
Oh yeah, let me say, my kids aren't exempt, and they tell it to me straight up. You know, most people want to soften their stance with me, but my kids and wife, they just give it to me straight. That game, hopefully, like you guys said a little bit earlier, Chase stated that last year, that loss really put us in a little tailspin. That cannot happen this year, or this game, after that game. And I think that having them come back strong in the second half when they could have gotten blown out of the gym, that might have been something that was valuable. But there's not a lot of takeaways from last night other than that.
When you look at a game like that early in the season, it's an opportunity for BYU to go out and impress NCAA Tournament Selection Committee members and whatnot. How much does an early season game like that affect the way that a team is and their resume for the tournament?
A lot. I mean, a lot depends on the rest of the season. So if you're a bubble team, which we all know what the bubbles looks like when it comes, they start talking about the bubble right now. Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
Lenardi has the bubble right now if you want to look at it. But I think that I just remember being in the room and looking at those bubble teams, and you're looking back to December for sure, and you're analyzing individual games, and maybe it was head-to-head matchups back then against, like if 2 teams are on the bubble and they both played the same team, you might go back and look at that game just to see how they played. It's that tight and you can cut it that thin. So that game could. Now, if we run the table and win the rest of our games, that game's not going to matter.
Let's do that.
That's a great point. What was it like Monday to break ground on the Marriott Center Annex? That was a more kind of emotional deal than I thought. It had been a long time coming.
You know, Jeremy, I didn't really go into that groundbreaking anticipating getting emotional or weeping. I don't think Dave did either, but I just know that when you're around Coach Rose, he's an emotional guy, and he put his blood, sweat, and tears into this basketball practice facility. And it's a family affair with them. The Roses, all the Roses, the brothers, the wife, the children, the mom and dad, they're all there, and they're there. They're, to use the term Brad Rock said this morning, BYU invested. The Roses are invested in that program, and I really just think that it kind of shows. It's going to be part of his legacy. Now, it's not just the Dave Rose show. I tried to make that point that you can go back to Frank Arnold and the former coaches of the past, Coach Steve Cleveland and Roger Reed, And all those guys had some input, and all the players on their teams to be able to kind of put the brick and mortar together to get this thing going.
I love the story that was shared about Lavelle Edwards asking for an indoor practice facility decades ago. It takes a long time, and so for Dave to stick with this and make this happen, it's, at that point I was like, wow, I understand the emotion behind this. This is an amazing effort.
Yeah, and in those days, things moved with glacial progress. I mean, there weren't very many indoor practice facilities during that period of time. And I'd say now in the last 10 years, everybody has an indoor practice facility, even if you live in Southern California. Now, not really. But in basketball practice facilities, it's just part of, if you don't have one, you're not in the game. And so it's not necessarily keeping up with the Joneses or the facility wars, but it is when you look at what you can do for your program, because it's not like we looked at every one and said we got to have it just like that. We looked at a bunch of them to say what's going to be best for BYU, and we feel that this facility is going to be beautiful for us.
Let's talk Vegas Bowl. What makes it a great fit for BYU in 2015?
I mean, you've been there, haven't you? It's a great time. When we first went to the first one, people are going, Vegas? What's that going to be like? And we kind of started out something really special with BYU football and the Las Vegas Bowl. It has had different sponsors through the years. Now it's a royal purple. And I just think this year, this edition, it's going to be a great team. I don't know who it is. People ask me at least 4 times an hour. But I don't know who it is, absolutely. I don't know who it is, but I'm thinking that whichever team it is will be probably the second hardest, or maybe the first hardest game on our schedule this year.
Wow.
Michigan was a tough game. We didn't play that one very well, but I'm thinking outside of that game, I'd say whoever we play will, because of the significance of the bowl, the opportunity to win 10 games, both teams vying to finish off strong and kick into next year, it'll be a battle.
Well, let's break down the names that John Cicenti, the Las Vegas Bowl director, told us yesterday. He said they're targeting USC, UCLA, Cal, and or Utah. I mean, all 4 of those teams would present a great challenge for BYU coming out of the Pac-12.
Mm-hmm. I agree. The Pac-12, even though it's ironic that they might not get an FCS team this year in the 4 playoff. They could if Stanford wins the game. Maybe, it'll be interesting.
They need a little chaos.
They need some chaos, but probably not. Yet, I thought it was a really good conference this year. I had a chance to watch a lot of the teams, and they're from top to bottom now. They're way more solid. There's no weaknesses in that conference. There's a few at the bottom in the standings that they'll finish at the bottom, but they're still pretty good teams. But the core of that conference now, solid.
10 teams are bowl eligible, right?
It's solid.
Yeah. If I'm Utah, I don't want to play BYU in the bowl game. Devontae Booker's out. We've won recently, that kind of thing. Is Utah an option?
Yeah,
in Vegas?
Sure. Utah is definitely an option. I think there's a lot of factors that go into who they pick. The Vegas Bowl, the Pac-12, and ESPN, who owns the game. So they're going to get in. We don't have a say in who we play. People say, who do you want to play? It really doesn't matter who I want to play, and I'm not going to say. But I would say that all these little forces going in, they don't have a decision. They haven't made a decision yet. But I'm going to just say I don't think UCLA will be the one because we played them. Most bowl games don't like rematches of a regular season game, although sometimes you play.
I was surprised that Washington State was not listed yesterday. John, that seems like an interesting.
I'll give you a little insight into that. I really think that Washington State getting on the map this year, I think they're going to probably go to a different bowl. They might go up. And some people say, well, it's got to be the 6th place team in the Pac-12. It doesn't have to be that way. The Pac-12 will get together with those bowls, and they'll just make deals. Now, there's certain rules where certain teams can't jump too far ahead. But I think in that case, Washington State has an opportunity that, for not being in a bowl game in quite a while, to come in and be a good team to jump in for a game this year. Absolutely.
People like him.
Swing your sword, man.
Cougar alum, let's go, baby.
Yeah. BYU 9-3 with this schedule this year. Tanner Mangum over 3,000 yards. Undoubtedly the greatest freshman quarterback in BYU history, especially when you look at the stats. What do you think about this current team going 9-3 against the slate this year?
It's a great accomplishment. It's interesting when you say this current team is not the team that started the season.
Not even close.
Yeah, so
Weird,
to me that's the key, is that I'm really impressed with the fact that You know, if you would have I remember, I'll tell you a brief story. I was in that press box at Nebraska, and I knew Taysom was out before anybody else. And I'm thinking up there, Taysom's out, Tanner's coming in, freshman quarterback. We got a wicked season. We might not be bowl eligible. Oh, you men of little faith. It took me a few weeks to realize, you know what? We're going to be bowl eligible fast.
Yeah.
We're going to get there fast because you know, you talk about Jamal not being out, and then you have those guys like Algie and Francis and Adam and Bert and all those guys jumping in and kind of carrying the load. All the receivers, everybody kind of carried the load when we had injuries. And same thing happened on the defensive side.
Did you get out of this schedule what you wanted? Because you challenged yourself more in this one.
Oh, absolutely. I think we did. You know, we went back to Michigan, and everybody was thinking that this was going to be the next one, and we got punched in the mouth. And I think there's something to take away from that. I think it humbled our team, that you realize when you go into places like that, which we will be doing a lot in the future, you better buckle up. You better be ready to go, that this isn't just another walk in the park, and that you can bring in your BYU tradition and throw it out on that Michigan tradition. You can't do that. If you're going to play teams like Michigan State, Mississippi State, USC, go on and on. When you come to those games, you better be ready to get bruised up and do a little bruising.
BYU has a chance at 10 wins for the first time in 4 years by going to the bowl game. What kind of a BYU following and crowd do you anticipate as the Cougars go for win number 10 in Las Vegas?
I think there'll be a big crowd. I think that it's nice because it's early, it's before Christmas. It's local.
Yes.
We have people coming from Southern Cal, Vegas, and Utah, the Intermountain West. It's a great location. That's why the Vegas Bowl has been so good to BYU and us for them. So I would think that, especially with a good matchup like we're going to get, it's going to be fun, be a good crowd.
And how are tickets available for fans?
You can do it, man. I don't know. I just show up and walk in with the team.
I know you don't need a ticket. The fans are like, we can't just go in with Tom.
Yeah, you go to BYUtickets.com and they take care of you.
Gotcha.
You buy them today, though, because they're going fast.
How do we get a shovel from the groundbreaking for the set?
How much money did you donate to that program?
Let's chat after.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I will say
Just a
this.
shovel.
The one thing that's cool about that is that we don't build that without big donations.
Absolutely.
And we made that point, and I think we express our gratitude. But to be fair, that is a combination of great donations, but also a lot of passion. There's a lot of people that didn't donate.
That's what I donated,
Didn't
Tom.
donate $1. You look at The Rock, you look at the kids through the years, the fans that have come for 40 years since that thing was built, and there's a lot of people that say, that's my building, the Merit Center. And I think it's cool being the Merit Center annex. That is part of that tradition of the Merit Center. And so, you know what? I'll try to find you a shovel.
Okay.
Thank you. That was a long answer.
It'd look really good up on the set.
Yeah, that was a long answer, but I like the answer.
Hey, we've still got your all-access pass back there as well, Tom, so we need something else from the athletic director. If it's a shovel, great.
I'll take a shovel.
Okay.
I donated passion, by the way.
Okay.
Tom, we'd like you to sign our new Stretch Y flag before you leave the studio. And you should know, I had this conversation with some members of the soccer team. I dare you to find a more hands-on athletic director than Tom Holmoe. We can't think of one, man. Keep up the good work.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, guys.